Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day. Wherever you are, whenever you're seeing this, I hope you are good. So guys, today we're going to be talking about the spiritual journey, the healing journey, and why it is so isolating. The first thing that came to me when I was thinking about this, I actually thought, why is self-love so isolating? And then I was like, I don't really think it's self-love. I think it's the spiritual journey as a whole and the healing journey as a whole. And I figured this could be something really interesting to talk about. I'm sure you guys have experienced wanting to heal, wanting to be better, wanting to feel better. And then shortly after recognizing, okay, I need to set stronger boundaries. I need to get certain people out of my life. I need to maybe spend more time on my own. I think it's super, super, super important to make isolation a lovely thing, to make isolation a beautiful and warm thing. You know, you can be alone and you don't have to be lonely, but we do experience a lot of isolation in our healing journey, and I just want to talk about that and talk about why that is. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Thank you guys for being here. As always, I appreciate you guys. As always, make sure you check down below in the description box if you want to book with me, shop with me, work with me, connect with me, all of that and then some. Follow me, get into it. Everything that you need is down below in the description. Now let's get into why the spiritual journey is so isolating. So I think the first thing that came to me was that, okay, this is how I want to get into this because I don't have any notes. So I hope this isn't too long. Let me see what time it is. I hope this isn't too long, but let's just get into it. So first things first, the reason why a lot of our relationships can't support or can't sustain our healing is because those weren't the kind of relationships we needed to be in anyway. You know, when you make friends or you get into connections or what have you with people because of proximity, because of convenience, because you have the same aesthetic as them, because you both want the same thing and then your wants change, because you both like to go to the same places and then your likes change or whatever, you know, there's always going to be a chance that eventually that won't be good enough. You know, a lot of our friendships and a lot of our connections in life really don't do what they're supposed to do for us. And I think before we begin our healing journey, most of the friendships that we made, well, let me not say that because, well, let me say that. I didn't say all now. I said most. You may have a couple of friends left over after you clean house 4 or 5 or 6 times, you know, and cut off everybody that isn't serving you. Because if you're on any type of spiritual journey, then you know it's like the mass exodus. You always cut off a bunch of people, release a bunch of people. You learn about frequencies. You cut off everybody that's low frequency because you realize that they also making you stressed and insecure and anxious. Then you recognize, oh my gosh, I have to set boundaries. So now you have to cut off all the people that don't respect your voice or don't honor your voice. And then you realize, okay, I'm going to, you know, do this thing for myself and I'm going to, you know, create my own path. Then you have to cut off everybody that throws shade on your path and everybody that makes little jokes about what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish in a sense to belittle you. You know, every space that you're stepping into, there's going to be different things that are revealed about your environment. You know, humans, we are such testy creatures. We really are mirrors of our environment. You know, we are mirrors of our environment. And when we change, our environment is directly reflected through that. So if you have a bunch of friends in your life or you just make connections because whatever, you know, you weren't thinking spiritually before now, so you just connected with whoever was, you know, on your same zodiac or whoever was whatever. Whenever you start to say, okay, I want friends that honor God. I want friends that honor themselves. I want friends that don't lie. I want friends that don't like gossip. I want friends that set strong boundaries everywhere in their lives. Whenever you start to make those decisions, chances are everybody in your life does not pass that rigorous standard because you weren't even thinking about that standard. Most of the time when we're broken, before we become aware of how our choices are affected by our trauma, before we realize I picked toxic people because of toxic people in my past, before we recognize that and we connect with people because we're broken, the biggest reason we connect with someone is because of a distraction. That's the biggest thing. And that's why so many people end up projecting onto you. Because think about it like this. If you bring something into your life, or let's say you have a dog that passes away and you immediately get a new dog and you're expecting that this dog is going to be everything that that last dog was and that this dog is going to show up in every way that that last dog did. And when it didn't, you're going to start saying to this dog, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And the dog is like, what? I just got here. What do you mean? Why are you treating me this way? That's literally how it is when we just kind of pick up people in our lives and we're like, oh, I'm insecure, I'm sad, I'm broken, I'm lonely, I don't want to be alone anymore, I want some friends, I'm so desperate, when am I going to make friends? We feel this way, so we connect with people that are direct reflections of that loneliness. You don't connect with people as your most confident, healed version of yourself. You connect with people crawling and scraping on the ground like, please, please, please. So your relationships are going to be based off of that. You're going to be based off of these crypt keeper relationships until you realize like, whoa, there's no life in anything that I have. Because most of the time, the second you try to breathe life into a situation, it falls apart. Change breeds life into situations. Transformation breeds life into situations. I guarantee you, if you have a friendship and the first big break, the first big disagreement, the first time you guys don't see eye to eye, the friendship dismantles, that was a dead friendship. Y'all were just connecting off of liking the same color. There was no life there, because life sustains you. When there is life in a connection, even when you look at yourself from a place of life, you're able to continually hold on because you know the value of something. And also you can feel what something feels like to you. So when we are operating from spaces of, I want to be distracted, I don't want to be lonely, I'm looking at the friends on Instagram, I'm looking at the relationships on Instagram, I want somebody, you're going to connect with people that are going to serve that brokenness. You know, you're not going to connect with people that are going to serve you at your absolute best, because that's going to come with challenges. That's going to come with transformation. If you're the type of people that you've connected with a lot of friends and y'all never talk about issues, y'all just wait a couple of days and it's back to normal, let one of y'all decide y'all want to change. Let somebody decide, okay, I want to be better or do better. That relationship is going to fall apart because there's no opportunity for real change there. It has to stay exactly where it is. It has to stay in the safe zone. When you're on your spiritual journey, no relationship is safe. It just isn't. Because everything in your life, you're going to be seeing it under a magnifying glass with X-ray vision that breaks it down into the neurons. You know, you're not going to be able to have little petty conversations with people and be like, I'm not really sure if they meant something by that. You're going to be like, yeah, they meant something by that because such and such and this and this and this and this. It's going to be very clear to you why people are doing what they're doing. You know, you won't have the benefit anymore of ignorance. You won't have the benefit anymore of being broken yourself. When you're broken and everybody else is broken, it's like, okay, cool. Great. You know, in any of my friendships or any of my connections with people where I felt like, wow, everybody's talking shit about each other, nobody's really having each other's bags, this is so fake, da 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 da. I also really wasn't confident. And I really didn't have the desire to be like, please never talk to me ever again because y'all are fake as fuck. You know, I kind of just allowed myself to stay in those spaces until it literally got too much. And the unfortunate thing is, in every space where you don't stand up for yourself, there's so many things that pile up against you in those spaces. Whenever you finally are ready to speak your truth or you're finally ready to change, the weight is going to be crippling. You know, for a lot of us, we have years, you know, even decades sometimes, but we have years of things that we've never said, feelings we've never expressed, things that we've always seen in these people that we've never wanted to bring to the table, even different things that we're learning about them. We're uncomfortable with how they may receive this advice or how they may receive, you know, what we have to tell them. You know, if someone connects to you because you shut the fuck up, they're not going to want you when you find your voice. If someone connects to you because you're also jealous and hateful and spiteful and y'all are messy together, when you say, I don't want to talk about that anymore, they're not going to call you anymore, you know, period. So I think that a lot of the connections that we form from broken spaces are broken connections. There are connections where life cannot thrive. There are connections that cannot handle being broken apart and being rebuilt, you know? Also, I think that everybody cannot be very, 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 very close to you, you know? People ask me all the time about relationships. They say, oh, this person is super, super this, and this. But they make me so insecure. They make me doubt myself. They're so nasty to me. They're so disrespectful to me. But, you know, they bought me a pack of gum in 2016. You know, that's literally the type of stuff that people tell me about relationships, and I'm not exaggerating. You know, whatever bad someone has done should outweigh the good, okay? Whatever bad someone has done, whatever bad someone is aware that they've done has to outweigh the good, you know? If you have anybody in your life and you have told them repeatedly, I don't like this, this makes me uncomfortable, this isn't okay for me, and they keep doing those things over and over and over again, but you know, sometimes they remember to ask you how you're doing, that's not someone to keep in your life. But you think that's someone to keep in your life because of how you feel about yourself, you know, because maybe that's better than having nobody, you know? There's so many reasons why we continue to cling onto connections that really do not serve us. But as an adult woman, as someone that's been in and out of a lot of different friendships for a lot of different reasons, I've grown to understand that friendships are not something to be taken lightly. The people that you have in your life is not to be taken lightly, because it's a privilege to be able to do life with people. You know, we are human beings. The journey that you're on isn't about anybody else but you. Your spirit is what brought you to earth in this year, at this time, in your family, in your situation, in your circumstances. The journey that you're on is about you. You're healing for you. It may be generational trauma. That's great, but you don't know them. You don't know them. So even if Momo is feeling better, that's great for Momo. But that might not necessarily make you feel better, you know? Even the healing that you do for others is not necessarily going to make you feel better. Even when you free others and give others advice and lift others up, that might not make you feel better. Your journey is yours. Your journey is yours. And you don't ever have to feel obligated to keep anybody in your life. You don't ever have to feel obligated to have a bunch of people around you. You don't. You know, I think that we should be alone and have people around us that inspire life in us, you know? Don't have people around you that want you to say the same. Don't have things around you that encourage you to be stagnant, encourage you to be lazy, encourage you to continue down the path that you already want to break free from, you know? That is not something that's going to speak life into you. That's something that's speaking death into you. And death is not just physical death, unfortunately. You know, I don't know what's worse, physically dying or living a long life and being spiritually dead the whole time, stinking up everybody else's life, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You know, when we are spiritually dead, when we are hopeless, when we are insecure, when we have no desire for change, when we repel change, when we've gotten to the point where we don't even want to hear or see or think about change, we are beyond the help of someone else inspiring us or motivating us to change our mind. It's always an inner decision to be better, but sometimes, you know, someone can inspire you to want to be different or want to feel different. Sometimes a lot of us can kind of seek out people that inadvertently just kind of confirm our insecurities. We could find people that make us feel smaller. We can find people that make us feel more confused. We can find people that make us feel like we are even less capable than what we feel we are, you know? And again, when you're broken, that's the kind of people that you're going to connect with. But in your new beginning, you know, as a new person with a new mind, with new standards for yourself and new standards for everybody else, when you become healed, it just makes you see the world differently. I think that something that a lot of people battle with on their healing journey is when to have empathy for others. And I think that's something else that causes, you know, you to be in isolation on your healing journey, because you have to make sure you're not showing too much empathy. You want to show empathy, but you don't want to be a fool. You know, you don't want to be the type of person that just allows people to break them and tear them down just because they've been broken and torn down. And I think that's something that a broken person does. I think when we're broken, we often say, well, this person didn't have this, or this person didn't have this, or this person didn't have this, so this is why they treat me like this. But as you become more and more alive, as you become more and more healed, you recognize that we all have a chance to be better, to do better, to think better. I think holding yourself to a certain standard kind of makes you hold everybody else to that standard as well. It kind of makes you say, well, why aren't you doing it? Or why aren't you taking care of yourself, you know? I'm like that real bad, especially with people that claim to be spiritual. If you claim to be spiritual and you're still acting like a knucklehead, then are you really spiritual? I mean, I could really say that. If you're claiming to be awakened, if you're claiming to be on your third spiritual journey, if you're claiming to be, you know, being visited by spirits every night, they give you messages from different dimensions, are you really doing all of those things? And is it really working if you're still unable to speak up for yourself and set proper boundaries, you know? I think that there's so much fraudness in the healing community. And I think that if you're somebody that's serious about your healing, no matter what it is, you're always going to connect with people that are not as serious as you. Like, how many of us have said, oh my God, I want a gym buddy. And you find a friend that go to the gym, but they really go to the gym once a week. And when they in there, they on their phone the whole time. And you in the gym 4 times a week busting your ass. And you're like, oh my God, I thought you were going to be in the gym with me. But you in the gym, you ain't in the gym how I'm in the gym, no. Or you say, you know what, let's start eating healthy. And you have somebody that's like, oh, I do a cheat meal every day. I let myself cheat once a day. You know, it's like, oh, we both on the same healthy kick, but we in 2 different spaces, you know. I think that's something else that causes us to be more isolated, because it's like, when you're on your healing journey, of course you want to connect with people who are on their healing journey as well. But what do you do when they also let you down? What do you do when people who love God also let you down and also act like absolute fools? What do you do then? Because I've had a whole bunch of people that love God, honey. I've had a lot of God-fearing women that literally act like Satan's spawns, okay? So I think that being in spaces where, you know, you hold yourself to a certain standard and, you know, you speak highly of yourself, or you think of yourself as this, that, and third, and you connect with someone that you think is doing the same thing and they're not, it's like, dang, even the spiritual people are like this? Even the people that claim to be awakened are like this? But that's why it's so important for us to remember that our journey is our own. You know, because I think every person that we come across is valid, especially when you get on your journey. Like, that's another reason why I think we're forced into isolation, because so much of what we have to do is separated from everybody else and just thinking about things that we've seen in other people. You learn so much from other people, but you don't learn it sitting right there with them. Sometimes you learn it sitting with them and then taking some space with them and kind of figuring it out on your own, or having friends here and friends here. And then, you know, I've had so many people in my life, just in and out of my life. I've had dozens of friends, great friends that have been in and out of my life. So many people that I've learned from. And I feel like all throughout my life, I've always been alone. Even though I've had these adjacent relationships, for the most part, I've really been walking alone and picking up different friends along the way. And I think that when we are intentional about that on our journey, you may come across all different kinds of people. People that claim to be really spiritual, to kind of gag you so you could be like, oop, well, let me not judge people, because sometimes we'll say, oh, this person isn't meditating. They don't use affirmations. They're not reading The Alchemist. You know, like, sometimes we can hold some unnecessary standards for people, or we could just expect someone's healing to look like ours. So I think it is good to meet people that are also reading cards, that are nuts. I think it's also good to meet people that are like, oh yeah, I'm on this journey too. And they're not really giving that, because the people that you connect with, it's not really about what journey they're on, or, you know, them living their life like you, or them just having this one thing that just makes them good. You know, I think what it really comes down to is something deeper than the stuff that we put on. And I think that all of our relationships in life are based on the stuff that we put on. You know, we put on our job, we put on a career, we put on our personality, our persona. You know, we put all of these things on, but your spiritual journey kind of requires you to live as who you truly are. You know, it requires you to live as who you truly are on a spiritual level. It calls you to just get connected more to the truth of you versus what everybody else has said that you have to be. And I think when you're connecting with the truth of you, you don't know who you're going to connect to, because the outside things that you put on aren't going to be an indicator of that. You know, you can't look at someone and be like, oh, this is exactly who I need to connect with. You can't. You know, maybe sometimes the aesthetic will match, but it won't always. You know, it won't always by a long shot. Sometimes you may even make connections online. I've met so many people online and all across the world that I've had great, meaningful relationships and connections with, whether we're still in contact or not. So I think that connection changes when you change. When you change, connection changes. You want different things out of connections. The friendships in your life speak directly to you. The friendships in your life speak directly to you. Any friendship that I have that hasn't worked out has just put a magnifying glass on things that I need to fix, things that I haven't worked on. And that just also sets us up for more success in the future. But I think it also just, again, reminds us the importance of isolation, because too much time in lessons makes you get to the point where you kind of never leave school. It makes you get to the point where you kind of never get to really apply those things and really ask yourself, like, okay, what does this mean for me? Now that I've learned, okay, this person is still in my life because of this, but what does that mean? You know, how is that affecting me? Where is this coming from? What is being triggered? What is coming up? What do I need to deal with? You know, whenever we begin this journey, it's kind of like we sign up to really, really be tapped into the earth school. Everybody is in school on this planet. We're all learning different things that we need to learn on this planet. But when we step into our journey specifically, it's like now you have the syllabus, now you have the curriculum, now you know what you're going to be up against, or at least you know, okay, I might have to get into this, I might have to get into this, I might have to get into that, you know? And I think that also adds to our isolation because we're overanalyzing everything. We're overanalyzing everything. And I think that's a good thing. I think that we should overanalyze our friendships and our relationships. I think you should overanalyze it to the fucking molecule because every molecule matters. Ding. Every molecule matters. You know, the common occurrences between you and the people that you choose, the insecurities that you share with the people you choose. Like, I have been a people pleaser in my early days, you know, when I was in elementary school and middle school and even high school. Like, I would say college was my first time where I really started doing things because I wanted to do them. But until then, I really just wanted to be cool and accepted. So I really just was who people wanted me to be. And, you know, one of my very best friends now is someone that also navigates and works through our people pleasing. So we've had many instances where we've had to call each other and be like, is this too mean? Is this the right thing to say? You think I should say this? You think I'm doing too much? Because what do people pleasers suffer with? Feeling guilty, feeling like you're being selfish, having people make you feel like you're the one in the wrong and you believe in it because you just want to please everybody, you know? So I think it's good to have people that can kind of share what you're working with, people who can kind of understand what you're working with. But also, you have to be connected with people who are about their business. I think that's the biggest thing. And most people are not. You know, I think it's easier to just be distracted and keep living in la la land, especially if you could find a group of people to make you feel good. Oh, I mean, being the leader of fools is literally how we have men like Diddy. You know, being the leader of a bunch of people who don't want to open their mouths, being the leader of a bunch of people who don't want to stand up for what's right. That's how we have a lot of these monsters that we have walking around today. So eventually, the people who want to do right and the people who don't want to do right are going to be very, 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 very separate. Most of the people that you come across do not want to do right, or they're not ready to do right now. Because doing right means being in isolation. It means being alone. It means cutting off family. It means saying no when you don't want to. It means having to go against what you naturally want to do to please everybody, to just please yourself, and feeling uncomfortable with that. Like, it means going through the pain instead of going around it. It means making yourself cry, making yourself feel the heartbreak, making yourself feel it instead of just distracting and moving on to the next thing. And it means being intentional about that. It means really tapping in every day and making yourself present. It means no longer giving yourself the gift of disassociation where you could just tap out and not worry about what the fuck is happening in your life and just check back in like, I'm not even dealing with that. It's all good. You know, a lot of people repress and repress and repress and repress. And whatever you are working on healing, whatever you've been working on repressing, whenever you start that intentional journey, all of that stuff is going to come up. All of it is going to come up, and you're going to have to deal with it. And if you are dealing with it and you're making conscious efforts to be mindful of those things, when you're listening to the downloads, when you're listening to the messages, when you're tapping into what you need to know and what you need to see, it really allows you to just see the world differently and also see connection differently. And I think it makes you want connection more. But it makes you want connection more for different reasons. And it makes you want different kinds of connections. You know, I think we really long for someone who can understand us and relate to us and connect to us, you know, like, you know, to have someone that has your gifts, that maybe share some of your trauma, that maybe can give you feedback and support you when you can't support yourself. Like, my goodness, you know, like if friends are good before you wake up, when you really wake up and the veil is lifted, friendships can be life-changing, you know, spirit-altering. They really, really can be. But I think that those situations are very far and few between. And it's difficult because you attract a lot of people, a lot of broken people when you start this journey as well, you know? So it's like you have to find that balance between being able to know who you can trust and who you can't, being able to know who you should have around you and who you can't, and also having everybody want to be your friend. And something I've been saying recently for the past couple of years is you choose who comes in your life. Don't let people choose you. Don't just be with somebody because they want to be with you. Don't just let somebody be your friend because that's what they want. What do you want? First of all, what do you want in a friend? Are you looking for somebody that can teach you stuff? If this person can't teach you nothing, then what you even considering being their friend for? I think the isolation also shows us how desperate we are and what makes us desperate. What are you willing to accept just to have a friend? What are you willing to accept just to have a lover? What are you willing to accept just to have a partner every now and then? What does that say about you? What does that say about how you are satisfying yourself? What does that say about how you are fulfilling yourself? I think that, of course, your spiritual journey really should be about putting you and God as the focus of your life. Your life focus should be you being who God wants you to be and you fulfilling God's purpose for your life, literally. And that doesn't include anybody. It may include certain people for 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, your whole life, who knows? But we don't know that. All we know is that us is included. All we know is that we are included and that God is included. That's all we know. Anybody else is liable to come in and out of our lives. And the only thing that will really remain the same is that we are here and that God is here. And I think that if we keep that as our focus and if we're confident and comfortable in that, it changes so much. Even for some of us who feel like, well, God isn't here physically. Is that enough? I can't hug God. I can't, talk to God on the phone and hear a voice comfort me. I can't, have a vent session with God in my living room. But can you do those things? Are there ways for you to connect with God that feels like interpersonal connection? And I think that there are. And I think that's another reason why isolation is so important, because of course you can't hear God if you're looking for God to communicate with you the way that everybody else does. I think God has a very specific way of communicating with us. And I think being in isolation, it definitely helps you recognize your gifts more and recognize your abilities, recognize what you hear, smell, see, taste, dream. And I think that that's really, really important to tap into. And even that can lead to isolation because it can make us feel like I'm going crazy. Nobody understands this. I think so much of our life, we are taught that it's about pleasing everybody else and making everybody else comfortable and sharing with everybody. And this is something that is our own. Your purpose is yours. Your purpose is not something you have to share. It's not something that everybody has to know. It's your thing. It's between you and God. It's like the thing that is yours. And I think that isolation, even though it happens for all of those reasons that I mentioned, it also happens to protect your purpose. I think we all need to be away from people sometimes to keep intact what is the most special thing about us. Some of us can easily be broken down depending on who we're around and what they're saying to us, and none of us are exempt from that. None of us are exempt from that. No matter how old we are or how far we are removed from our trauma, we can all be brought back to those places where we feel exactly like that again. So I think it's really, really important to know who you are, know who you're supposed to be, and be open with getting reconnected with yourself. Be open with recognizing what your connections have been made up of in the past. Be open to asking yourself what kind of connections you're looking for and why are you looking for these kind of connections. A lot of us just don't want to be alone. A lot of us just don't want to be without friends or be without love. We feel like if we don't have physical love, we don't have any love, So I think it also goes to just challenge how we feel about love and relationships and about intimacy and friendship and connection, because we don't need tangible anything for those things. There are so many different kinds of intimacy and friendship and connection and love and passion and, happiness that we can share between each other when we're not physically with each other, And I think our spiritual journey is all about highlighting that, because when you can get what you need to get from someone, their energy, their life lessons, their conversation, hearing the inflections of their voice and knowing whether they're happy or not, when you can learn someone through their story and through, again, their energy, their frequency, how they perceive the world, sometimes that can be more valuable than spending every day with someone, So I think that your journey definitely challenges you to look at people differently, to connect with people differently. And it just changes how you see. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how you see the world. And when you see everything differently, of course, how you feel about everything changes because you see it differently now. It's not the same, you know? Like if people are vegan and they don't eat meat anymore, they don't eat animal products, every time they see somebody eating meat, they're going to be thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that, because they have a new mindset. They're thinking about things differently. And once, a veil is lifted, it can't ever be, returned. So once we step into this new space, we're just going and going and going and going. And I think some of us even regret, like, it was easier to have friends before I stepped into this journey. But think about the kind of people that you had in your life. And that's even something I've had to ask myself before, like, dang, maybe I should have never said anything. Maybe I should have just kept people at a distance instead of cutting them off. Maybe I shouldn't have did this. But I have to remind myself, there's no healthy way to keep someone in your life that's not supposed to be there. You can't just talk to somebody every now and then if they're not supposed to be in your life. It's either all or nothing. And I think that's what the spiritual journey is about, because you're either going to be who God wants you to be or you're not. You're either going to be healed or you're not. You're either going to take care of your life, be actively healing, doing what you're supposed to do, trying to do the right thing, forgiving yourself, being patient. You're either going to be that person that you need to be or you're not, So you're either going to accept the people that you need to accept and remove what you need to remove, or you're not. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people suffer with on their journey, finding that balance, because of course we want community now than ever because we have all of this stuff to share. But it's even harder to find community because we're looking for such a, specific audience. So yeah, I feel like this was a pretty solid rambling. Let me know how you guys feel about this conversation about isolation and our spiritual journey, and how our spiritual journey changes our perspective on friendship and connection. I hope this made sense, because y'all know when I get to rambling, sometimes I'm like, I hope this is giving. But yes, I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about this topic. So yes, thank you guys for being here. As always, check out the description box. If you need to book with me, connect with me, shop with me, all of that, and then some. I love y'all, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys. Bless.